everyone. We are here today with AuBrey Erickson. AuBrey is a massage therapist. She's been doing that for 29-ish years. She's only 30, so she started when she was 27 years, 27. So she was 3 years old. She specializes in prenatal labor support and also postnatal care. She has been through challenges of parental alienation. She's going to tell us all about it that she wants to share. Just a horrible thing that is going on in our country, even in our state, that many of us don't have any idea that this is going on, and until it actually happens to us or someone close to us. And so after talking to AuBrey, she's just opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I think it would be really good to enlighten us and to have us be aware of the situations that are happening in other families. I also would like to talk about this could go, I don't want this to go on to a tangent, but that I do feel that there are a lot of people who judge parents unfairly, like you deserved it, or what did you do that was wrong to deserve this, or however. And so I would encourage you, as you listen with an open mind, an open heart, that this could be you, and it could be a situation that you might think that you would or could avoid. But AuBrey will let us know how that goes, and just kind of explain how some of these things that happen to us and to some of these cute kids and parents, that is actually a very horrible thing that happens. But she also has encouragement for those who have gone through it, and encouragement for anyone who's going through anything similar. So I'm very excited to talk with AuBrey and to have her share parts of her life story. I do have a couple of questions, but I would love for you to just take it how you want it. And just, I mean, take the whole conversation how you would like to do it, but I do have some guiding questions. So the first question, so I talk about where have you been? What have you learned from situations? Where are you now? And then where are you headed? So starting off, let me ask you this. What was a turning point in your life that changed your direction? That could be young childhood or just something from the past. What has something that's happened that has changed your direction in life?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm sending blessings to the audience. Happy to be here. Thank you for having
Yeah.
me. And I'd say, as a kid, I was really inquisitive and really independent and really strong-willed. And I was the oldest child, and I took that job very seriously. So I was the oldest. I'm the oldest of five kids in my family growing up, and mom and dad two-parent home. I was raised LDS, and I was the oldest of all the grandkids on my mom's side where we lived in the town we lived in. So I was able to be kind of the matriarch, secondary matriarch, like take all my little cousins under my wing and take care of them. And a turning point for me was actually first when I got married was a big turning point for me, and then I quickly got pregnant, and I was sealed in the Salt Lake Temple to my husband, and it was everything I dreamed of and my patriarchal blessing had spoken about. And so I was so happy to be surrounded by those that I love so dearly. And then I could enjoy the blessings of the temple, which we were taught growing up was such a wonderful experience and guaranteed exaltation in heaven if we do all these steps. And so I was so happy to be accomplishing this crowning glory of being sealed to my eternal companion and having this new little baby on the way. And I will say, turning point for me was having that baby, because
Mm.
having the child, that was the second turning point, becoming a mother. And I think that's the same for a lot of us. We all feel that shift in our lives when we all of a sudden we're responsible for another life, not just our own. And so
Mm.
I learned a lot through that experience. I became really in tune with my baby and with the pregnancy. And at one point, I wanted to name him. It's funny because I wanted to name him Moses. I was watching a lot of the baby story on TLC. And a lot of the women would have their babies in water. And I thought, I'm going to name him Moses and I'm going to have him in the bathtub. And that
Yep.
didn't go anything like I planned. I ended up with a hospital birth with all the interventions. And we were at that time in the world where 9/11 was happening and the trade centers were coming down, and there was a lot of turmoil, and in my marriage there was a lot of turmoil. So I filed divorce. At that time I was getting ready to leave my husband because he was abusing me, and I was scared, and the towers were coming down, and I realized when I was holding that precious baby and nursing it, the nurses were telling me give it bottles, and my mom was putting ice on its feet to try and wake him up to eat because he was going to starve to death if I didn't nurse him the right way. And I was bleeding with cracked nipples, and all of a sudden I just shut out the whole world, and I went alone in a room, and I sat and watched the the Walmart baby movie where the lady's giving birth in the Walmart. And I just was there alone with my baby, not thinking about anybody or anything else, and not listening to any of those voices that had just been so loud in my head up into that. And if you've been a new mom, you know there's all
Uh,
this advice just coming
faith.
at you from every angle. And I sat there, and all of a sudden, without even thinking about it, my baby was nursing. And I'm like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, he's latched and he's nursing. It's like, and this is like a 10-pound baby. I was 90 pounds. I gave birth to a 10-pound baby. Okay.
my gosh.
I was like, oh my gosh, she's not going to starve to death. You know, this 10-pound baby's not going to starve to death. So that was a turning point for me. And at that point, I realized that my connection to my baby and to God is what mattered in my mothering and in my parenting. And none of the other voices around me were going to try to sway me on how to parent my baby. And I was going to do what's best. I mean, I had people stealing him, giving him bottles, feeding him while I was in the shower, and giving him pacifiers. And it was just a nightmare. And I didn't know all of that was contributing to this latch problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have I didn't know what La Leche League was. We didn't have people in the hospital teaching breastfeeding. I'd driven 5 hours. Our house wasn't built yet. I was staying on my parents' couch with my baby in my arms. Like it was just a very tumultuous upheaval of a time. And I realized at that point I was going to be a warrior and just do whatever it took to protect my little baby and make sure that he got the best, and that I knew that Heavenly Father would tell me, and I can know in my heart what was best for that baby, and nobody else was going to tell me what was best for my baby. And so I think that was a real turning point for me, and it actually has carried me through to today.
Wow. So then you had seven others, eight kids, eight
Yeah,
children.
I ended up having unassisted births at home, free births. So my last baby was 11 pounds at home, a free birth. He
Wow.
was born. I had just gone down to Utah, and I'd gone to a big family reunion with my family. And my ex-husband was at home having an affair with the woman he works with, and I kind of knew all that was going on, but I just was in my zone with my 6 kids, pregnant, about to give birth, and thought I'll just go to my parents' house. So we went to family reunions. We went up to Yellowstone. My dad took my kids and I up to Yellowstone because he loves to do that. My mom and I went down to Utah to a big family reunion for her side of the family, and it was this happy. We have pictures in front of the temple. I didn't know that would be the last time I'd see my kids together again.
Oh my gosh. So
So,
that gives me chills. I know that we might be jumping ahead too far, but
sorry.
no, it's okay. I jumped. I did that. So I'm curious. What? Okay, so in between that, raising your children, your relationship. So you divorced after. So you didn't divorce apparently if you had seven more kids, right? Yeah, I mean you.
Right. So we went through each pregnancy. I would want to get a divorce. Like it was hard. And I didn't at the time he was blaming me a lot and projecting. So I'd later learn what narcissism was. I'd later learn what the like different things, different abuse things were. But at the time we didn't even have internet. Like I didn't even have the internet most of the time I was raising my kids. And so I was just going along, and I just was trusting myself to know how to take care of my children. My children were kind of what brought me the best joy in life. And my ex-husband, he worked a lot. He was out all hours of the night. He plumbed, he remodeled houses, he owned his own plumbing company, he worked at Home Depot as an assistant store manager. He did a lot of different things. And so he wasn't around a lot. But when he was around, it was a tension. There was a lot of tension. I don't remember a lot of peaceful, happy moments flowing. Like
Yes. Yes.
a lot of tension. He'd gone through a lot of trauma as a child. His mother had alienated him from his father. His sister had claimed allegations of the father inappropriately touching her, and they'd gone during the divorce, and they'd ended up not. He didn't even have his dad's last name, so I never met his real dad. And so there was a lot of past trauma and cycles that I didn't even really know a lot about how that all worked. I kind of understood, but not like I do today. And I didn't know how to heal those things. Where today I've taken a lot of courses on NLP and hypnosis and a lot of different brain gym and different things about the brain and studied the brain. And now I know a lot more how to help heal the brain and how to help heal trauma patterns in families and in yourself individually. And really it all starts with ourselves and how we heal ourselves and how we process trauma and what we do with that. So I've learned a lot through that experience on how to do that hands-on learning.
It's
I'm a big
good.
fan
Oh,
of
it's
hands-on learning, but it's not always the best, funnest way to
right.
learn.
You're forced to figure it out, right? And then it becomes a blessing. But
Yeah.
so that is very interesting that your husband was alienated from his dad, and then he turned around to do that to his children.
So there's a support group on Facebook people can look up, and it's advocacy for parental alienation, and you'll see in that Facebook hundreds upon hundreds of parents who've been alienated, and not only that, but their stories a lot of times coincide and are very similar, and a lot of them start out with a spouse who had either experienced sexual trauma or had been alienated from a parent or both. So it's called attachment theory, but I believe in it, and I believe that all of our attachments start in the womb when we're being carried in our mother's womb, and we start our attachment there. And when we're separated from our attachment figures, it can cause serious damage to our brains and to our psyche. And
Mhm.
so the court system doesn't. They want money, so they will
Yeah.
focus on diagnosing the symptoms, like in order to perpetuate their system and get more money for their system. So really, yeah, the severance of your primary attachment figures at a young age can cause a lot of long-term psychological damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's something I've learned, and this would I don't want this to take us on another route because it's not
right.
about me. But we adopted my daughter, and she was 3 days old when we adopted her, but she still has reactive attachment challenges.
Mhm.
So, and I believe what you say, what you have said, and I've heard from many different therapists, and the belief that there's the physiological connection you have with your biological mother, and when that is severed, there's a lot of stuff that is traumatized, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done to build security and trust. So I understand I'm speaking your language, you're speaking my language. I'm understanding a lot more, but
Yeah.
that is just, it makes me want to become a lawyer and jump in to help you. Like,
Yes, sadly, unfortunately, a lot of the lawyers who had good intentions in my case and wanted to help me, including my last attorney, he was really interested in helping me. But unfortunately, they're working in a system that isn't set up. They call it a broken system, but it's actually, I believe it's not broken. I believe they know what they're doing and that it's
Mhm.
it's a criminal system and they're actually extorting money from parents in order to gain profit. It's a for-profit system. And so that's not best interest of the child. It's actually in the worst interest of the child. It's in the best financial interest of the court system. And so really it is a very expensive system and it's a very tedious process. And if you were to try and jump in, it's like quicksand. You would probably quickly sink because they're without reconstructing and redoing the entire system, it's broken at the fundamental lowest levels. And so
Oh.
they do keep people entrapped in that system in a cycle to continue to perpetuate their gain and their money. So they'll order specialists and psychologists and court involved therapists. And some people have GALs. We don't in Idaho, but we have court coordinators. And these people will spin you in circles for years and years and taking all of your money to try and jump through different loopholes, which are just feeding their system more money. But you never actually get to an end result where you get your kids back. So unfortunately, in 10 years, I was never able to reunite with my children despite spending
Others.
thousands of dollars and trying everything in my power to be able to do so. We're now having Idaho Senate meetings, and I've spoken in front of our state senators. I'm speaking again in front of them on the 30th. We're also on October 30th going, this will be the first time they've gone before Congress in Washington, D.C., and brought parents with them. Like, really, and I'm
Right.
making a video for that to share my truth. Unfortunately,
Mm.
I don't have a lot of faith in the dissolvation, in the court system dissolving, or in it changing a lot. But I do believe that where there is light, there is truth, and where we can be of influence is just to share our light, even if it's stopped or blocked by the darkness, we still need to shine our light on the darkness, even if it doesn't have an effect on it or it doesn't change anything for the darkness. It still grows our light, and it's important to grow our light and our truth and stand for what we believe in and stand for our children, because my kids are so strong. They're the best children on earth. I know everybody says that about their kids, but my kids have been through and seen so much, and I do believe that our children's spirits were reserved for this time, that they existed before we came to earth, and that they have a purpose and a mission here, and that nothing will stop that no matter what. And it's our job to just be the light for them and love them and support them and encourage them. And my children have taught me so much, and I just love each of them so much. And
Wow.
they're just the most incredible children, and I know that they're fulfilling the mission the Lord has for them, because I pray for them every day, and I know that the light of Christ is with them, and as long as that's the case, nothing can harm them. So it can harm them maybe temporarily. They've all been physically abused, sexually abused, and abused in so many different ways. But aside from all of that, I know that the Lord will triumph, and their little spirits will triumph over their bodies, and that they are is healing through the Savior Jesus Christ, and that's what we have to focus on. So there's
Yeah.
two different powers at play, and we're just choose which side you're on and shine the light and be the light, and that's all we can do. So in the
Gosh.
end, we all know the end. We all know what happens. We all know the outcome, and we don't have to live in fear or defeat, because we all know in the end which side
It
triumphs,
wins. Yes.
which side wins.
So, do you have no contact right now at all with your
Correct.
children?
I was on a protection. I've been on false protectors. False. This is a very common theme when a protective parent who's trying to protect their children from abuse goes to court. They usually end up on some kind of protection order or false allegation of abuse. And I have two false allegations of abuse, and I've been on a protector, and now I'm on a criminal no contact order. But only from the three youngest. The rest of my children I could talk to, but they're being kind of kept from me through this family systems that are going on. My ex did a smear campaign. I lost after that trip I told you about in 2015. I never got to reconnect with my parents again in a healthy way, and never really ever see them or talk to them. But yet they still are in contact with my ex and my children, and see them regularly. But I don't even get pictures. I don't know where they go to school. The courts won't help me find out. No one will help me find out. And this has all been going on since 2015. I only got the latest criminal charges were placed on me in May of 24. And so this has really just been going on for years, but only recently have I been on a protection and a no contact or in criminal orders. So basically, before those were even in place, I never saw or spoke to my kids much at all. And so it's just how the court system is. And until you've entered it, it's hard to even fathom or wrap your mind around. I had a visiting teacher who told me, just stay with your kids so you can protect them, because I have to send my little girl back to her dad, and he sexually abuses her every time she goes back. And I said, well, why don't you just tell the judge? I'm sure if
Uh,
you told an adult male judge that's responsible for taking care of children, he would just give that child back. And I just could not. My
uh,
mind had no picture or no frame of reference for what this woman was even talking about. And I thought,
yeah.
well, I'm not going to stay in abuse to protect my kids. That's not protecting them. I need to leave to show my children that we don't tolerate abuse. And I didn't
Yes.
understand that the abuse doesn't end, it changes. The abuser then uses the court system, and your children are at higher risk for being abused once you're gone and you aren't there to protect them. So now I understand exactly what my sweet little visiting teacher was trying to tell me all those years ago in 2012.
Stay with your children to keep them safe. Is that
But
what she,
I'm glad she did come to me and tell me those stories, because honestly, a lot of people haven't believed me, and it's very triggering. It's very triggering to hear men say, "Oh, I would never date AuBrey. She's lost her 8 kids," or "I don't trust her. I would always hold that against her." I've heard all these comments from people, and people just in complete disbelief, and it's helped me to remember how I was back when I didn't have that frame of reference,
right.
and I was thinking the same thing. There's no possible way a judge would be making your ex-husband see your daughter if he's doing all those things. And I believe Cindy, she's this sweet lady in my church who loves me and cares about me. I don't think she would lie about something like that, but she must be lying, because that doesn't make sense. And so I've been in that situation, and then I've had the paradigm shift, but unfortunately only through lived experience. So I I empathize with those of our listeners who are going, this story seems so out of whack. And then hopefully there are those listeners who are maybe going through it that can take courage from this story and see that there is life beyond losing your kids, that you can walk through that storm and keep faith and keep hope and keep an energy connection to your children. And I can teach them how to do that and help them through that with my coaching. And then hopefully there are just others that are just listening with curiosity, that maybe this is the first time they've ever heard of any of this stuff. So,
And that's why I thought to say in the very beginning that we jump to conclusions, we jump to judgments, and that's unfair. And I think it's good to listen to the whole story and the situations and the facts. I think is most important if you were to but if you had these judgments, since the judge is the only one who really has a right to judge, that you would pull the facts out, and that's the person that would make the call.
yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about that because with our brains and how I said that I wanted to make sense of what Cindy was saying, my visiting teacher, when she said she had to send her little girl back to her perpetrator, and my brain couldn't make sense of that. Well, our children's brains can't really make sense of the divorce trauma. They don't understand it. They're just children. So their frame of reference isn't the same as ours as adults. So when they're going through that trauma, and if their brains are being manipulated by the other parent to hate one of their parents, it's very easy to get that child for survival reasons. And because the child's in so much trauma from being separated and severed from their parent, they'll latch onto anything to make them feel safe and believe anything to make them that truth be reality so that it makes sense in their mind. Just like we as adults were trying to make sense of the court system in our mind and how this could possibly be happening, they're trying to make sense of it too in their minds and feel safe and connected. And their primary goal is attachment. And so they'll do whatever it takes to keep their attachment figure and keep safe with that attachment figure. So if one attachment figure has been deemed unsafe and taken away from them, then they will attach to the whatever attachment figure is there to feel safe. And even if that means lying or saying bad things about the other parent in order to stay safe. So one thing my daughter told me before she went to live with her dad was, "Mom, if I go live with dad and I say mean things about you, just know I don't really mean it. He's just making me say it." So, they know, kids know more than we think in a lot of ways, but they also will do what it takes to stay safe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Trusting the parent that is, yeah, taking the lead.
At one point, she said, "Mom, just don't fight for custody of us anymore because dad's going to make us testify against you in court." And I said, "Well, we don't even have an open court docket. Our custody is already set. There's nothing happening." And I never saw her again. And the next thing he did was file false allegations and made my daughter testify on her 14th birthday against me. And
Oh,
my other daughter that said that had to testify, and she was crying the whole time, but they had to lie and say that I abused them so that they could be safe with their dad. And so those are the charges I'm on now. But I just want the listeners to understand that kids will form their primary goal, and their brain's primary survival mode is for attachment and to be safe with a parent, with an older and stronger and protective person, so that they can feel safe with them. They'll do whatever it takes to be protected by them and not abused by them. Even if
yeah.
they are being abused by them, it will just trauma bond them to them deeper. And so that's something that a lot of, I think, the courts know, and they're specialists in the court system understand, and they know this stuff, and they purposely put them with the perpetrator in order to extort more money from the protective parent, because they know that the protective parent will keep fighting for their child, because we're in a healthy mindset of best interest of the child. Even though the courts claim that, it's not what they're after. So that's something that the listeners too can kind of contemplate and research and look into or think about. That's something
Yeah.
to think about. So,
Because we all believe that they're doing it for the best interest of the children. And that's why we judge, because we trust the system. So,
and
and
I think they
not
created that
but
slogan as the smoke screen so that people would listen to that slogan and hear it, and it would ingrain in their brain, and they'd think that was the truth.
yeah.
So, yes, yeah.
Oh gosh, now you have me us thinking other questions. We might have to do a follow-up discussion. This might get outside a little bit of what your story, as that you mentioned trauma bond, that it's the parent that is abusive, that they bond more to the parent that is abusive because of the trauma bond. Like, I've been wondering about that, is why would a child want to be with a parent that is so emotionally abusive? And that makes sense that there's some kind of, anyway, some kind of psychological need to prove their worth or to
Mhm.
approval from that parent that they don't feel they have.
Yeah, and a lot of us parents who are traumatized and have personality disorders know exactly how to incite that in the children. They know how to get that through breadcrumbing them and making them beg for love and withholding certain things from them unless they do X, Y, and Z to prove themselves, you know. So it's they know all this psychology from lived experience. They've been through trauma and they know how to traumatize their children. And so there's a path of healing or there's a path of brokenness, you know, and you see that in people who've been through a lot of trauma as children. They either become highly empathetic or they become highly abusive, you know. So yeah.
Wow, my
Hmm.
gosh. There's so much to this. I'm so sad for your situation. There's so many questions. I'm wondering, you mentioned that you have what carries you is your hope. And I wonder what that looks like. How would you describe maybe 5 years from now what your life will look like with this hope being realized?
Yeah. So what I believe is through the attachment parenting, which we didn't talk a lot about, but I said earlier that I believe in the mother that were our first mother was the mother Eve, and that she didn't have a mother on earth to go to. We don't know anything before Eve. We just know that Eve went to God for her source and to Heavenly Father and Mother for her source. And then through that, she was able to parent her children from her place of love and understanding and connection. So I always talk about the secrets of Eve. And so we don't know what the secrets of Eve are, but we know science is starting to prove more and more that our bonds to our children can't be removed, even when the kids are taken from us. We still carry them in our DNA. We, you know, the recent studies are showing that we still have parts of their DNA in our DNA, and that I believe through quantum physics that we can connect to our children through energy, that we can send them messages like prayer and things like that. So I believe as I pray for my children, and I've watched this happen with a mother of 8 recently. She was praying for her children for the last 8 years. Or I'm sorry, a mother of 4 was praying for her children for the last 8 years. She was separated from them right after I was. And she and I became friends in 2017 through nursing school. And she was praying for her children. And her daughter just turned 19. And guess what? She got to celebrate her birthday with her for the first time in 8 years. And that was because she was positive and filled with the light of Christ and never stopped praying for her daughter and never gave up hope. And she called me so excited the other day and said, "You'll never believe what happened. My daughter reached out to me and we had a birthday dinner together for the first time in 8 years." And she hadn't seen or talked to her daughter in years, but she never gave up hope. And she'd do anything she could. She'd send little messages to her school, or she would, whatever, she'd send flowers on her birthday. And her daughter remembered every little act of kindness her mom did over the years and reached out to her once she left home for college. And so I do believe, like, the darkness can only reach so far, and ultimately the light is what prevails. And that isn't always the case. A lot of she has an older son that's never come back really, and I have older children, 25-year-old. I have a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 19-year-old. They haven't never come back. My 19-year-old sent me a threat message saying if I ever contacted her again, she would get a protection order. So sometimes they are in a situation where they can. It's not safe for them to do that emotionally, and they'd lose their support network or whatever. Maybe they'd lose their financial support. Who knows? But they aren't always in a safe place to reach out and come back. But that doesn't mean they stop loving us. A lot of kids who have gone through parental alienation, they have a split, so they kind of split to survive. So one part of them believes the parent's bad to survive, but the other part of them knows deep down that the parent, they still love them, and that they're loved by their parent, and that they still love their parent. So, but they have to get to a safe enough place to be able to do that. So my goal, my hope and vision for the future, of course, would always be that my children would be healthy and happy and thriving in their lives, whatever path they choose. That's always a parent's goal. And it's always an added pleasure and benefit if we get to be part of their lives and get to enjoy watching that happen and have our children with us again. But for me personally, I just want to help others. I want to always be there as a nurturer. And as mothers, we're mothers, not just to our children, as women who can't have children. I have a counselor who's never been able to have children. She's a good Christian counselor. She worked with my kids before they were taken. And she is the highest and holiest mother I know, although she's never given birth to her own children. So I think as mothers, our desire of our heart is always to be in our womanhood, empowered and mothering. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my goal for the future, is just to continue to be a light and a mother to those that need it, and to send that energy out, right? That's what we do.
Yes. So you know how many, well, this is probably hard to say, but how many would you guess? How many people do you know? You probably have hundreds of people that you know that are experiencing this. You
Yeah.
said the advocacy for parental alienation. That's a group that you know that you're aware of. A
Yes.
pretty large group. I just am curious how often this happens that we're not aware of. And
It
then
happens a lot. So there's a lot of, yes, it's happening to thousands of parents. So um, there are lots of groups online for it, and there's a lot of advocacy for it happening right now. Like I said, if you go on the Idaho State Senate page, there's Senate meetings happening in Idaho. You can listen to other parents testifying about what they've been through. Like I said, they're taking this to the federal court in Washington, D.C. the end of the month, and they're going to be advocating for new laws for that. Um,
and
so
that's just one state. So that keep that in
no,
mind too.
every
This,
state is going to this, and every
oh,
state will be in Washington D.C. meeting before the congressmen and women, and telling their stories. Parents will be telling their stories for the first time ever in history. They will be telling their stories about what happened to them in the family court system. So that's happening the end of the month. So there, yes, it's happening to thousands of parents. Like I said, the first time I heard about this was in around 2012, when my friend was divorced and she was sending her daughter back for visits with her dad who was abusing her. That was the first experience I had with it, but it's actually happening a lot. And parental alienation, where they turn the children against you, can happen even when you're still married. It started for me back before I got divorced, with my ex-husband taking my cell phone, erasing my cell phone, and giving it as a gift to my son without me knowing. Well, it had all my evidence on it. It had all my pictures on it. And I found my son with my cell phone and said, "How'd you get my cell phone?" And his dad said, "See what I mean, son? See how your mom reacts to things?" I told him he could have it. It's his. It's a gift. How could you be so mean to not want him to have a cell phone? Well, I was left with no cell phone. All my evidence is gone. It's all been erased. So parents can start triangulating their kids and alienating them long before the divorce happens. They lay the foundation a long time before the divorce happens, undermining and verbally abusing. And there's just a lot of different things they do to cut you off from your support and start alienating you before you're even divorced. Sometimes parents experience it for the first time after they file divorce or when they're going through it. And of course, mine, got a lot worse.
yeah.
It got
Okay.
a lot more intense when I was going through it and everything, but it did start before.
You felt like you had more control, maybe.
Right. And I still had contact with my children, and over time that just went away to down to no contact. So yeah,
Sure.
so but yeah, for the federal laws changing and things like that, and state laws changing, there's a lot of advocacy happening right now, and there's actually good laws and bad laws that they're trying to pass right now. Some of them I don't agree with. Um, there's one movement out there I don't agree with, the Cadence Law movement. I do not agree with. But if you look on Maddie, she's an advocate for parental rights,
Hmm.
and Parental Alienation Project is her website,
Oh,
and she's an alienated child that woke up and understood the truth, and she's a great advocate for parents who believe that kids need both parents and both attachment figures and healthy attachment, and she advocates for that, and she's she's such a sweetheart, and I'm so grateful that she's doing that. It's only been in recent years that she's been doing that, but I'm so grateful. And then there's the I'm not even sure what the name of the group is that's going to Washington D.C. I just found out about it myself, but they're going down there to try to create laws that would be like time lost, time gained, where you get back the time that the courts have robbed you of it with your children. But for many of us, it's way too late. Like I said,
10 years.
I have almost have five adult children, four almost five adult children. So those years are gone. They won't, I'll never get my kids back, but hopefully one day I'll have a relationship with my adult children again, and that would be
Yeah.
nice. My youngest is only 10 though, so he just turned 10 August 26th.
Oh, wow.
And then
So
my
I'm
oldest will be 25 on the October 10th. So
gosh.
Mm.
So you still think of them, you still celebrate their birthdays, you still,
Oh,
I'm sure, write
absolutely.
letters, I'm sure, in your prayers,
I don't think even 1 second goes by where I don't think of my kids. And it is active complex trauma. So I do wake up in the morning shaking like PTSD. When parents go through this, they have the same symptoms as war vets, because we've experienced such severe trauma and loss. And yet our kids are alive, but we usually know they're not in a safe place. So that gives us added anxiety and stress because we know they're being abused. And many of us have seen horrible, horrible things with that abuse, me included. So you wake up in a panic, you go to bed praying and wake up terrified, and then you have to rationalize, get your rational mind going, and then try and survive the day. And every day is a challenge to survive when you have your limbs cut off, because those little kids are like your limbs. They're part of your heart and it's been ripped out. So a lot of us, I have a couple of parents that are actually going through it, two close friends that have gone through it, and we do support each other and keep each other going a lot of times. One I'll call crying, I have to pack up my kids' stuff today. We're moving to a new house, and they're bawling and they're needing to get rid of their stuff because it's been years, but it's so hard to part with their things. And I remember leaving pictures on the walls and blocks right where they left them, because most of the time with the family court, they don't give you any warning that your kids will be taken. They just take them. CPS has taken my kids once, and I had no warning. I did get them back from that. But a lot of times, like with the family court, they'll file a motion and you have 2 days to give your kids away, and you never see them again. And then you'll get them back maybe 3 years later for a few hours, and they'll play with blocks in your living room, and then they leave, and then there's new, or false allegations or criminal charges, and then the blocks are still sitting there waiting for the kids, and they never come back. So it's hard to want to move those
no
because they're
kidding.
frozen in time at the time that you lost your child. But now your child's 25 and his blocks are still there, and you're going, okay, it's probably time to get rid of their blocks. So, and maybe we won't have grandkids, or maybe we'll never know our grandkids. So there's no use hanging on to it for that. So it's helping each other through things like that only alienated parents think about, and people in the outside world are completely oblivious. You're going outside and walking your dog like it's your regular routine in a normal day, while inside you're falling apart because the judge just said that you're never seeing your kids again. But to everybody else, it just looks like another day in your life. They don't
Yeah.
know what's going on behind the scenes.
Well, and I can tell that you are someone, and I'm similar, that I can put on a beautiful, happy smile and feel like garbage inside. You can feel like your whole world is falling apart, and you just want to be um like crumbling, ugly crying inside, and you just smile to the world. So all of your maybe all of your Facebook posts or all of your Instagram posts are happy and showing a cheerful smile. My life is wonderful. My life is great. Look at all my friends. Look at all, the ways that my life is okay.
Yeah.
But inside falling apart. I get that. I don't know if that's how you are, but I can tell you have a beautiful smile all the way through all of it, that it's probably what carries you through. And anyway.
Thank you. I also do want to be, my children give me a lot of strength and bring me a lot of joy. So I want to make sure that they know that they're okay to be happy and that I'm happy, because I would never want my children to feel guilty or responsible for any of this, and know that they're loved and that I love them and that I'm always here for them no matter what. And one time when I got to see my little girl after not seeing her for 3 years, she came back on a brief visit and she told me, Mom, my friends saw your Facebook and they said I had a pretty mom.
Oh,
Oh,
honey,
so
that's
even when
cute.
we think our kids are cut off and they can't see us, we're living in the day of technology. I can't see any of my kids because their dad has it all locked down, but they can see me, and I keep my Facebook public. And that's why, because I want them to know I have nothing to hide, and I'm here to be happy, and I'm here to show who I am. And it's okay to show that you're sad and that things aren't going the way you want them to, and that you're falling apart sometimes, but then also show them that you're being strong and staying happy for them. And I know my kids are doing the same for me. I know they're accomplishing amazing things in the world and doing amazing things because they are so strong, and they do have that inner joy and peace that comes from the Lord. So I know my kids do. So yeah.
Oh, good. So there is a day definitely to look forward to. That's the hope that carries you through, that there will be a day, a brighter day that you can look forward to, where you'll be able to see them,
Yeah.
embrace them, and talk about anything you've missed catching up. But I just can't imagine the pain now and that you have gone through over these years. Oh.
So,
I
but I think it's extremely important to focus on our life lessons and the things that we've learned and the blessings that we've had. So having healthy children, even unschooling and home birthing them by myself with no help, and having them all be healthy and strong and all between 8 and 11 pounds, that's a miracle in and of itself. So it's like there have been a lot of miracles. They were meant to be on this earth, and they are on this earth, and those are the things that we know and that are with us always. And we do need to, even when we're facing trial, I could go to jail for 2 years. I could disappear and go silent for 2 years. So if nobody sees me, just know my criminal case didn't go so well. If anybody wants to attend my criminal case, they are welcome to attend my criminal case on the 7th and flood the courtrooms. I would love to have the media there. I would love to have the news reporters there. I want to bring awareness to what's going on in our court systems in America right now. But it's hard to believe. My friend told me this morning, he's a doctor in Florida, and he said it's hard to believe this is happening in America. I have a doctor of psychology who the courts won't even talk to, even though he could be an expert witness and be excellent at testifying in my behalf. They won't even use him as a witness. So
wow.
it's very biased and very it's a system that is set up for a certain purpose. So anyway, I just want people to know that focus on the joy and the hope, and focus on what you've accomplished and all those blessings. And if your children never come back, keep a brightness of hope that you are still having an influence on this light world. You had an influence before you had kids, and you'll have an influence once your kids are gone. And even after you die, your children will continue to carry on your legacy. And whatever time you get with them, give them from your heart and in connection with the Lord. So don't listen to all the voices outside. It's hard. Shut them out and pay attention to what your children need and their communication with you.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice. So
Yeah.
October 7th, and it's in Idaho. What is the court? Tell us if you want to know, if you want us to know.
Oh yeah. So Ada County Court in
Which
Idaho.
county?
Ada County Court, October 7th at the Ada County Courthouse in Idaho is my trial date.
Okay.
It could be changed, postponed, continued. We don't know. We've been continuing this trial for 1.5 years now.
My gosh.
So, but yes, do get on. Yeah, and you can just follow me on Facebook. And if you want upliftment or you want encouragement, just reach out to me. I'm just a no name person. I'm not a big celebrity, but I would be happy to talk to anybody and give them what I have. Just share with
Yeah.
them what I know and be a support and to them if they need someone to reach out to, and point them to other specialists and advocates that can help them as well.
Yes.
A lot of
Well,
people out there just wanting to make money off of exploiting our trauma and trying to get money to help us fight in court or know what to say to our kids. And really, everything you need to know is in your heart, and everything you don't know, you can get from the Lord. So just keep that in mind.
yes, I know. No, like, well, I hope that that goes well for you. I would love to be able to be there and say, hey,
That would be awesome. I know you interviewed another lady from Meridian that you shared the podcast with. So it would be fun to have her there too. She's
oh,
a
yeah.
survivor of a lot of trauma too. So
Yes. No, well, I'll pass it on. That
fun.
sounds good. So we have what I'm curious about is what are laws that are not currently in place that could you mentioned one, but what kind of laws can prevent this from happening? What could you do, have you
Honestly, the courts need to follow their own laws. In Idaho, you can't remove a child from its parents without due process, and with it's against our constitutional rights what they're doing. So they had no jury trial. I didn't even go to trial. The judge had a secret meeting with my attorney and my ex's attorney, and they decided they were removing my custody with no due process. This isn't legal. This isn't constitutional. It needs to end. Idaho says right in their statutes that you have to have a reason to remove full custody from a parent and a child, and they didn't have that. And I asked my attorney, show me what law or order I violated, and he couldn't show me anything.
gosh.
No, they don't need it. They're above the Constitution. They're above their own laws, of their own state laws. They don't even follow. And so, yeah, they just need held accountable. Personally, I believe the family court, CPS, I believe all those agencies need to just go away. I think that those agencies were set up to support families, but they're destroying families at an accelerating, alarmingly large rate. My ex is a product of the court system. You see now that his children are products of the court system. This continues the cycle of detachment. And the specialists inside the court don't listen to any specialists outside the court. So my psychologist won't even listen to their little LSW that doesn't even have her clinical license. She won't even talk to him, but she's updating the judge that I shouldn't see my kids. How does a lesser licensed professional update the judge against the recommendation of a doctorate degree psychologist? So they aren't even listening to their own. They won't listen to anybody outside their system.
Wow.
The
So
system
federal
needs to go
government
away.
higher court, right? So that's what it would probably require, is going to a higher court.
That's why they're going to Congress to try and change the laws right now. I'm happy for them that they're doing that. I don't have a
Yeah.
lot of hope. I think they've been trying to do this for many, many years. What's her name? Katie Mosley. If people reach out to her on Facebook at Katie Mosley, she knows a lot too. She's very, very, and Veronica Biaz, if they want Veronica Biaz, Baiz, are both really good advocates to reach out to point you in the right direction for positive advocacy and positive change inside the court systems. And
Wow. Well, I wish you the best, and I wish there was something I could do.
I'm just here to help everyone on a spiritual level. So if you want, I believe this is spiritual warfare. I believe that this is dark
Amazing.
versus light and good versus evil. And I believe that those battles are best fought on our knees. So if anybody wants encouragement and love and light, I'll be
Yeah.
here for them and help them with
Well,
their coaching and help them with their life paths and things like that. So
yes, that's something that I did not mention very much, but you do have a passion for helping women that are in the domestic violence, and helping them get out, and helping them, yeah, to gain their
and
self
any
back.
parents that are having problems, just struggles with their children. It's hard when we live in a society that teaches to do things one way, and if you want to do things a different way, it's hard to find the best path sometimes, or to attach to your children and know how to listen and tune into your kids and do what's best for them versus what you're being told to do by society. So if anybody wants help with their kids and just knowing how to parent and what to do, or just some added support and encouragement, I am here for them. So
That's awesome. And then you have that such great experience for attachment. That's something that, yeah, I think is so needed to help to understand, for parents to
I do
understand.
believe not having any regrets with the way I parented my children. I mean, we all have little regrets, but knowing that I attachment parented my children and having them away from me has helped me so much, because our attachment was so strong before they were taken that I don't feel like that attachment has ever left. I feel like we're still attached and our bonds of attachment are still in place. And I think attachment parenting has, I mean, I have heard a lot of people say, well, just, and you can just say that you've made mistakes and that you're sorry. And I'm like, no, that's not why I lost my kids. I didn't lose my kids because of any mistakes I made. I lost them because their dad didn't want me to have them anymore for control purposes. So I'm here to say that you'll never regret making a choice that is for the betterment of your children and that is in their for their best interest, and what you feel in your heart is best for your kids, and listening to them and gentle parenting them and co-sleeping and baby wearing and all of the things I did, nursing them, and just listening to their cues and listening to what they need, and as they got older letting them have a voice and express themselves and dress how they wanted and learn
Yeah.
what they wanted, and all of that. I don't regret any of it. I don't regret letting my children lead their lives in the way that they felt they needed to lead them to empower them. So yes, I'm a big proponent of children's rights and children being empowered and being listened to. And my kids' voices were silenced through the court system. They testified they didn't want to go to their dad. They told the court officers that they wanted to stay with me, and their voices were ignored. And my oldest daughter's last words to me were, "Mom, even the police don't believe me." So,
Wow.
and they didn't. They didn't. They left her with her abuser and wouldn't give them to me when her dad was out of town and gone and abandoned them at the house. And I went to get them, and the police wouldn't even give them to me. So, and she was only like 12 years old at the time.
Mm.
So, children's voices need to be heard. Child's rights are finally, it is becoming more popular to listen to your children and to parent them gently and to listen to them and to parent them with attachment and connection and love versus punitive punishments. And so that's becoming more of the wave of the future, and I hope that parents have the support they need to help them and guide them with doing that. And so that's what I'm here for. So
I love it.
yeah.
We're kind of on the same path. I just finished my BS degree, and with an emphasis in marriage and marriage and family studies, bachelor's.
Oh,
But
congratulations, that's so neat.
But then the emphasis is child and family advocacy. So it's helping legislature. It's helping, helping to set laws. So I think
Mhm.
that there's never a mistake that we meet each other. We meet people.
Funny. We'll have to talk a lot more about that.
Yeah, so I'll have to tell you about some of that stuff. That's why I specifically asked you what kinds of laws do you think would help, because that's where my brain is going.
Allowing the
What is
professionals
the
like you,
solution?
allowing the professionals like you to work with the children and be able to have communication with the inside the court system with the court involved therapists and the court coordinators and those people that are locked down inside that system. They need to be able to listen to people outside of their system and really work together with the family, like family counseling versus just, I don't get to meet with my kids therapists. They didn't get their therapist never took the notes from their prior therapist. They wouldn't tell us who their supervisor was. So being able to have open dialogue with the professionals that are outside the court system that are still highly skilled professionals would be very nice, instead of just keeping it right in their court system and them going to the judge and nobody speaking to me, not no involvement with both parents. Only one parent gets to be involved in counseling, only one parent gets to talk, and here they only hear from one parent and the kids don't get any communication with their mom, and the counselor won't even speak to the other parent. And so that's a complete cutoff, and there's no way to get your kids back in that situation, and there's nothing you can do, and they just keep updating
Can't
the
believe
judge.
that.
You can't see your kids. So it's very, very corrupt that way. So if they could loosen up and let other professionals have a say in court and speak and listen to and collaborate and have family counseling versus just one parent, that would be amazing. And false diagnoses are huge. My ex tried to diagnose me with a bunch of different things. I took 3 psych evals. After my 4th psych eval, they finally gave my kids back every other Saturday for 8 hours, but only the kids under 14 and only for 8 hours. So even though it was shown that he lied and falsely accused me of borderline personality, which I never was diagnosed with, it didn't matter. They still took the kids based on that false diagnosis and gave him full custody. So even when I proved I didn't have that, I should have got my kids back, but I didn't. I only got little tiny visits, and that was so that they could keep fueling their financial system, because they make money off of this now. So I've done parenting classes, coaching classes, all through the court system, paying the court system, psych evals through the court system, paying the court system thousands of dollars for their specialists, when other specialists were saying the same thing, they just wouldn't listen. And even when I went through the courts specialists, well, then the court specialists can take you to the next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. And they just keep moving the goalpost and moving the goalpost. And pretty soon you're 20 years down the road, still paying money to the court system for a child you lost at 16 who's now 25. And they still haven't given you your supervised visits that you were ordered to. They still haven't given you your, anything, any of your parental rights back. They're just, yeah. So working with the professionals outside the court system and doing family counseling with them and things like that, and even having funding for those parents who are drained from the financial burdens of having children and not having a degree and not being able to get a degree because they keep having false allegations launched against them in court and having to go back to court and pay attorneys to fight those false allegations, so they have no money. So giving them access to like Medicaid covered counselors and stuff would be amazing, but they won't allow for any of those people to their voices to be heard inside the court system.
Oh my word. I
So
wonder if that's just
I
Idaho.
could talk to you for years about this. It's not just Idaho. This happens all over. Read Katie Mosley's recent article on what happened to her. She's from a different state. Her name's Katie Mosley. I have it posted on my Facebook wall. If you scroll down, you'll see her article. And she's amazing. She knows all of the laws they're breaking. It's funding for the, I think it's something for IV4. She knows all the laws and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's because they get funding for doing this and resources for doing this. They get resources for picking. So for it's they do DSMV diagnoses, which are they make up false diagnoses like my ex did through the DSM or D, is it D, I don't know, anyway, the
I don't know. I don't remember. I think it's
and
DSM.
then they do Title 4, D, and E funding for incentives to break down the parental bonds for financial gain. So that's why they're doing it, is because it's giving their system more money to do it. And so if they can pick one parent, and take all custody away from the other parent, then that other parent will keep paying into the system and doing whatever it takes to try and get their kids back. and then they just continue it for years on end, and it can continue the trauma and the attachment disorder and all of that stuff in the kids, and then they keep getting, so the courts do a value bond for your child over a parental bond. So it's a financial bond versus a parental bond. So they're trading the parental bond for their financial bond. So
Wow.
yep. So they just get rid of your constitutional rights, and they just ignore them and trample over them. So they are going this I believe what the bill they're introducing to the Congress on October 30th will do is try to reestablish like regular trials for family court and regular thing, so that it's more
Huh.
just versus judges' discretion and judges that can be paid off under the table and things like that. So yeah.
Correct. Yes. What is so interesting to me is that those laws have already been passed. It's already our
We need them to
right.
enforce the current laws. And even with parental alienation, it's just like I said, they are trying to make parental alienation a diagnosable thing. You don't need to. It's child psychological abuse. It's been
Ah,
around for years. It's in the DSM already, and Dr. Childress talks clearly about it, and he states that it's child psychological abuse and a splitting of their
wow.
minds to be able to align themselves with the abuser so that they don't get hurt by the court systems, because they're forced to live with them and no contact with their other parent. They have to have an attachment figure, so they have to sever and split so that they can survive. And he talks about that. And then Stockholm syndrome by proxy, when you have a psychologically disordered parent that is putting that psychological disorder on another person like their child and making that person fear their other parent, then that's, it's already there. It's already in the DSM-5. They just need to look at it and see that it's child psychological abuse. They don't need to add parental alienation, because then
Right.
that can be weaponized against a parent saying, oh, you're alienating them. And then they can implement more interventions to make more money for the courts that further damage the kids. Like my court involved therapist coaches my kids. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but they came back and told me she told them really bad things about me and stuff. And
Mhm.
so they're trying to plant false memories in the children, which is a real thing, and it happens, and it's what cult leaders use, and they do it all the time. And the courts are well aware of cult tactics. They're well aware of psychological abuse. They know how to do all these things, and they're doing it. And they're using these tactics on our children. And especially when you're in a domestic violence situation and you get a divorce, you can guarantee if that other parent is out for blood. My co-parent said that his only agreement was full custody of all the kids and me behind bars. So when you have a violent co-parent or someone that's out to destroy you, then the courts can profit. They love it because they can fuel the fire and keep the fight going forever to pad their pockets. So
Oh.
that's what they do.
Oh, so how are you prepared for October 7th? Or how could we help you prepare? You just have to defend. You're just in
I
the
think showing up and showing the courts that we have advocacy and that we have eyes on them, and that they're being watched. These judges are being watched. We know what's going on, and we're there. And you're there to support and to show that you aren't buying their narrative. You aren't buying the lies. You aren't buying a system that rips children away from their parents with
good.
no justifiable cause. So October 7th, they claimed I hit my child a year and a half ago. I never hit my child. CPS said I never hit my child. The police said, go pick up your daughter. CPS said, go pick up your daughter for Mother's Day. On my way to pick up my daughter, I got a flat tire conveniently. And I called my co parent to say I have a flat tire. And his response was the police are on their way. And I was served with a protection order. Out of that protection order, I was prosecuted by the state for abusing my kids. So it's an ongoing thing. They'll just continue and continue and continue to put these false protection orders on protective parents and keep us rights away. In fact, my friend Sean Kuhlmeyer in Washington just wrote a book he's a lawyer, and he just wrote a new law for the books that he's sending um, to Washington, D.C. that will, go before and be entered in, hopefully, as law. Um, and it took a lot to write this law, but it's a law that you can't have a lifelong protection order on a parent. He was put on a lifelong protection order from his son when he was just a little boy. His son's now 18, but he's been fighting since his son was like 5 or 6. And he's finally written a law to put on the books that will get rid of them being able to put a lifelong protection order on. Whereas me, they don't need a lifelong because they just keep putting more on. It's like that once one's about to expire, they hurry and get another one. So they're just using those orders to weaponize
Ah, well, that sounds like it. Oh my gosh. I had no
That's
idea all this stuff was going on. This is
mhm.
good to know. So, what would you say is the most important life lesson you've learned so far?
I think it's first of all, resiliency and endurance, empathy for other people who are like homeless or on the fringe, because you think, oh, these people are homeless because they made themselves that way. You don't realize that there are other factors involved in that were out of their control a lot of times. And so I think just being aware of that and being empathetic to other people has been a real something that I've really learned. And then everything I've learned through parenting and gentle parenting and learning to trust my intuition and be guided by God. And sometimes when we think we have the right answers, we go full fledged ahead. I had a scholarship to nursing school, and all of a sudden, my ex slammed me with criminal charges, and I was in criminal court for 2 years. This was in 2019. I didn't get out of criminal court till 2020, and by then, he had slammed me with the emergency motion for full custody. So I was fighting in family court and criminal court, and again, I'm fighting in criminal court. And so I think sometimes we have a plan for our lives and we need to be willing to surrender to the plan that the Lord has for us, because his plans are always our plans, and even the adversaries at work. And sometimes he would have, I'm sure the Lord would have loved for me to go to nursing school, but because he knew this was going to happen, he put other things in place, and he's allowing me to go through this stuff, and I hope I'm using it as a in a good way to help other people. So yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. So, you're going to nursing school now? Is that what?
No,
Oh,
no,
oh.
I got slammed with all those orders. In fact, he even falsely accused my friend right out of nursing school and almost lost her license, almost caused her to lose her license. He falsely accused her. So it's no, I am doing what I'm just trusting the Lord and surrendering and living my life on faith day to day right now, because making plans for your future when you're being dragged back to court every 2 weeks is a really hard thing to do.
Kidding. So that's what I wonder. What today? What brings you joy today? What kinds of things can you
Oh, everything. Like, I think just being
do?
on this podcast with you, learning about your bachelor's degree in counseling, that's so neat. Advocating, getting involved, helping other people. I'm a projector in the human design. So just helping others and learning about other people's and feeding on other people, just learning from other people's lives and enjoying and reveling in their energy is really fun for me. And then I love I love doing my hypnosis and NLP. I use the Healer's Blueprint by Tam Pendleton, and I love using that to help other people to clear their generational patterns of abuse and helping them to heal. And I love doing that work. It's really powerful. It shifts people in powerful ways. I love connecting with my friends. Hiking and activities like that are really fun. I love, remembering my children and our memories together, and all of it. It just brings me great joy. See the light in the world. There's so much darkness and so many things that we can focus on that are negative, and the shootings and the stabbings and the all of it. And so when we stay focused on the light and the good positive things that are happening, I think that's really important in staying in a state of gratitude and being grateful for the things that we have in our life, and that we wake up every morning and we're able to praise the Lord every morning when we wake up. And I love listening to church music. I love listening to uplifting music. It makes me feel happy, and I love to dance. So
Wow.
I love to connect with people through dance. So just finding outlets like that you love.
Good. All the keys to happy living. You could write that book. The keys to happy living. So the thing that I love about it is that you are learning, or you have learned to be happy regardless of your circumstances. Or, you learn to be happy and to thrive. That's what we say in Thriving Singles Community. We say it's that we're learning to thrive because of our circumstances, right?
Yes.
But that's amazing. You emulate that,
Yeah.
that you can go through hard times and you can still have joy. You can still find things to be grateful for. You can still hold on to hope, and you create this life that you love even when your circumstances are not ideal. Um,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
I'm
That's
just really grateful for the knowledge that it's
inspiring.
given me. We gain so much knowledge through our experiences, and sometimes I think the Lord allows us to go through different experiences so that we can gain knowledge that we wouldn't gain any other way. When I was giving birth to my first baby, I heard the scripture in my head, all these things shall be for thy learning and thy experience. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to die. It's like
Like, what kind
10-pound
of
babies
thing?
coming out of a
Yeah.
90-pound body in the hospital with my feet up in the earth. And I'm like, I just want to die. But I went on to take that experience of that awful child. It was a very traumatic birth. And I took that birth experience into my next birth experience and changed the experience. I learned, I educated myself, and I decided I wouldn't repeat that experience again in the hospital. And I had my next baby in a different, with a different
Setting.
knowledge and experience.
Oh,
So I think that's something to focus on too, is that we're all gaining knowledge and experience, and all of that knowledge and experience can bring us joy if we transmute that experience into joy. We can take a really horrible experience and we can transmutate that into joy with our knowledge
I
and
love it.
sharing our knowledge with others. I hope that I've gone through all of this for a reason so that I can help uplift other people and share it, because otherwise, what purpose did this all serve, you know?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I don't know how I found you or you found me. I don't know how that happened.
Isn't that funny?
It was divinely orchestrated for sure, because I definitely know that find value in our connections, and to be able to learn the stuff that you're learning and pass on some of your support to others
Thank
too.
you so much for letting me be here and sharing all of this. And I just want to really emphasize to our listeners too, everybody's going through something really hard that nobody else knows about. And so be very careful not to judge other people, because they are going through really hard things that on the surface may look like, oh, I don't want to touch that. That's terrible what they're going through. They're crazy. But sometimes it's long term illness, sometimes it's divorce stuff, sometimes it's other things. But they're all fighting battles we don't know about. We just need to share more love with each other and more compassion with each other. So,
Please. Yes, I love
so
it. That was such an inspiration. Thank you so much for your
thank
time
you
today.
so much, too. I appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
What about us? What about us? What about